Penn State, the waiting is over. They have fired. They fired. They have not fired. Do not believe that. They have hired Matt Campbell as their head coach. Zach, I have a lot of issues. We'll talk about the hire here in a second, but I have a lot of issues with the way people are framing this hire as like, well, Matt Campbell's just going to be fired in a couple years because you can't please the Penn State fan base, which I see that coming from a lot of national media type of people. Which again, you listen to this show number one because you know we're obviously Big Ten centric, but also we challenge the national media on a lot of things that honestly are just kind of bullcrap, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of national media, when they first talk about this, say, "Well, if Matt Campbell doesn't win a national championship in the first 2 or 3 years, are they going to keep him around?" That is not Penn State fans. Like people
Yeah.
do not have an understanding. They went from a coach who was around for 46 years to a coach that stayed for 2 years and then went to the NFL. Sorry, he went and he left on his own. He didn't even get fired. And then they kept a coach around for 12 years that couldn't even win 5 games against top 10 teams in those 12 years he was there. Now, albeit first 2 or 3 years was coming back from sanctions and stuff like that. But that had already started with Bill O'Brien 2 years before too. So it's not like he spent
Mm-hmm.
all 12 years doing that. So this whole idea of like, well, Matt Campbell better be careful. He's just gonna be fired in 2 or 3 years if he doesn't win a national championship, if he doesn't win the Big Ten. That is not the pulse of this Penn State fan base. Do they have expectations? Absolutely, they have expectations, but they're not the type of team that is like completely unreasonable. That's Alabama. That's Georgia. Those are the type of teams, and yes, Ohio State too. Those are the type of teams that are that
Mm-hmm.
way. Penn State might become that way at some point if they have as much, enough success, but that is not what Matt Campbell is walking into here. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so people forget I was like, I've been around the Penn State program. Like I lived there and they love their people. But like, let's not forget that before James Franklin got there, even before Bill O'Brien, like Joe Paterno basically could have retired when he wanted to. And his tenure did not end. Well, I mean, obviously he got fired because of Sandusky, but
Right. Yeah, obviously it didn't end
yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah. But
But you're saying
aside
on the
from that,
field, like
on the
on the field
field,
wise, yeah.
like they were willing to be patient with him, even though he didn't end super well on the field either. And then like James Franklin, he had 2 7-6 seasons. And then yes, he had a couple of big like 11-win seasons. They went to the Rose Bowl, won a Big Ten championship game. But like he won the Big Ten his third season. And he did not go back to the Big Ten championship game until 2024. And they kept him around and they said, yeah, like it's great. We like him, but we'd love it if he beat Ohio State like more than once. And we'd love it if he won big games more than a couple times. And like the reason why he got fired was they put everything into this season. Like they put all their chips in the table and they got rewarded with 3-3 with losses to UCLA and Northwestern. Like, yeah, that's not good enough. And it's been 12 years. But Matt Campbell, nobody is expecting him to win. Like some people are expecting him to struggle to get to 6-6 this next season, which looking at their schedule, if they hit the transfer portal right, if they do NIL right, it's a possible
They could still win 8 games next year.
they could win 8. They could win more than that,
They
possibly.
could, yeah. I think the floor is probably 7 right now as we speak, but that floor could easily be raised up to 8.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Like I think people who think Matt Campbell is going to get fired in 3 years, it would have to go really badly for him to get fired in 3 years.
Oh yeah, it'd have to be like no bowl games and stuff like that. And I see some people saying like Matt Campbell's not actually that good of a coach. Matt Campbell was doing things in less than 10 years at Iowa State that Iowa State had not done in their entire history. They have like a history of like 110 years before Matt Campbell. He won almost as many bowl games as they won in those 110 years. He had a better winning percentage in his time by like 20% than what Iowa State had those few years before. Like Matt Campbell took that program from the depths, and he also did a great job at Toledo too, right? He didn't get that
Yep.
job at Iowa State out of charity. He did a great job at Toledo as well. So there are so many things to be excited about with this hire of Matt Campbell, him coming in. I do have some, I won't call them cons, but I will call them concerns, I guess. Maybe
Yes.
that's just short
Yeah.
for for con is just short for concerns. But I do have some things that I'm a little iffy on. But overall, with the way this hiring process went, with how miserable Penn State fans were at one point, I mean, you had the leaked audio too. Like, shout out to Chris Drew over at Dead Air Sports. Chris has been on this channel, at least 2 or 3 times. We love Chris. He does a great job. Go check out his channel over there. You probably have checked it out if you listen to the audio. But anyway, they they do they all of this happened day 54. They finally hire Matt Campbell, and I just sat back and I was like, that's the best hire they could have made. And
Mhm.
honestly, that's the best hire of this cycle. I think it's better than Lane Kiffin. I think it's better than John Summerall. I think it's better than all those hires. I think this is the best hire of the cycle.
Yeah. And the problem with that, with the only problem is the timing. Like they screwed up the timing because they
Yes.
probably,
Yes.
if they do this a month ago, it doesn't affect their recruiting class. But they did it 2 days ago, which to me, there's a funny tweet. It's like, which I don't subscribe to this at all, but it's like, it's when you strike out at the bar until 2:30 a.m. and still walk out with a 10. And it's like, that's what, like, terrible.
No,
Like,
but Matt
stuff.
Campbell's a 10. I mean,
Yeah, like
let's be
Matt
honest.
Campbell is a 10,
Yeah.
and Pat Kraft should be fired for the way he conducted this search. But he's going to get credit for it because
Well, I do want to get your opinion on that though, because I do subscribe to the theory, and not just the theory, because we know it's true, that James Franklin sabotaged this search in a number of ways. Um, and I do think that Penn State fans and national people need to realize that it wasn't just Pat Kraft trying to hire here. This is also Pat Kraft trying to hire against James Franklin, trying to make sure nobody got this job or nobody took this job in multiple different ways. I mean, it's been confirmed that he talked or had people talk to different people who were head coaches or head coaching candidates for this. So while I do agree Pat Kraft did not do his best job, he had a number of mistakes. I don't think it's always the mistakes that people bring up. Like I think it's the mistake of like he didn't hire a GM first. He let all of James Franklin's, basically cronies stick around in the program and continue to work for James Franklin when James Franklin wasn't even there anymore. Maybe cronies is the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying? Like the guys who are loyal to him, I guess is probably a better way to say it.
yeah,
And so I do agree Pat Kraft made mistakes, but I also think Pat Kraft was working with different circumstances than a lot of other athletic directors have to work against here.
yep,
So
that's fair. I still have issues with him, but
I get that. Yeah, and I get that. I'm not saying Pat Kraft did an amazing job. I don't think he did the best, but he did come out the best candidate. So
yeah, agreed.
all right, last thing here. My couple cons with this. So Matt Campbell, not the best recruiter in the world. I don't think you have to be the best recruiter in the world to recruit at Penn State. Terry Smith is sticking around. I saw that
That's
report.
huge, by the way.
That is huge. So I don't know what kind of role he's going to be in, if it's like safeties coach or, because he was a DB coach there. But Poindexter is moving to Virginia Tech with James Franklin. So, he's not going to have Poindexter back there coaching the DBs with him anymore. So that does mix things up. John Haycock is coming over with Matt Campbell. And I'm not saying that John Haycock is a bad defensive coordinator, but I don't love the 3-3-5 scheme that he runs, especially in the Big Ten. I don't. I think that the interior of many Big Ten offensive lines are too big to run a 3-3-5. Personally, I think you can run a 4-2. I think you run maybe a 3-4 if you have big enough middle linebackers. But I don't love a 3-man front, especially with only 3 linebackers behind him. But there's also some Penn State fans saying that Haycock might come in as only an analyst, and Jim Knowles might stick around. Which who knows if that happens? That would be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But do you have any thoughts on concerns?
Well, and I've seen maybe some thoughts too that Haycock might retire. Like he's
Yeah, I saw that.
65.
There was a
So
report though that he was coming with. We just don't know exactly
yeah,
how. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wonder how long he'll stay at 65.
Yeah,
But I do have a concern about that defense, like that defensive structure in the Big Ten.
because John Butler just ran it and he got ran all over every single game.
Yeah. And like you're gonna have to find. I mean, and we saw it like with Jim Knowles, right? Jim Knowles, I think, did run a 3.35 at Oklahoma State, and he
Yeah, a little bit.
shifted. I mean, the famous jack position that never actually came to fruition at Ohio State. But I think he's going to have to shift to either 4-3 or, other odd man fronts.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. I don't really have anything else on the hire other than that. I mean, it's just a good hire. As Tom Fornelli says, I have no idea if it'll work out
Yep.
because you just never really know. But I
Yeah.
think of all the possible hires that they could have had, this was
Yeah.
probably the best one.
At the very least, the floor will. I think there was a potential that this could have cratered
Oh
the
yeah,
way that this coaching search is going. This is a high floor hire. I don't know if it's a high ceiling hire. Is probably the best way to put it.
yeah. I mean, the high ceiling hire would have been like Kalen DeBoer. I think Jeff Braun presented you with a high ceiling, but a much lower floor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you were reaching out to guys like Tommy Reese and Matt Patricia. Now, I'm not trying to say Matt Patricia would not be a good hire, but we saw what happened with the Lions, and I don't think
Yeah.
one year as a DC is really going to fix that.
Yeah.
So, but
Well, and even Brian Hartline was a name, and I like
yeah,
you talked about Hartline, but I thought the Hartline hire to South Florida is perfect for him.
mm-hmm.
Penn State, I was like, you're gonna take someone from the Ryan Day coaching tree, and then have him go up against Ryan Day as his first job. That's a terrible idea. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a much better hire.
Yeah,
And
and I
he did,
think that.
yeah.
Go
He
ahead.
does have Pennsylvania ties. He has connections to Iowa and Ohio, or
Mm-hmm.
to Pennsylvania and Ohio. Like while he's not the best recruiter, he does have influence in this area.
He just needs to get in the DMV.
Yep.
Honestly, it's going to make a big difference who Maryland hires after they fire Mike Locksley,
Mm.
and we all know that's coming. So after September, we'll see.
October 1st. Mark your calendars.
Get ready. The hot seat will be open.
Yep.
So, all right. Anything else, Zach, before we get out of here?
Nope.
You're tired. I'm tired.
I'm tired, a little sad, but also very, very excited for Indiana.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good for the Big Ten, if nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
It's really, really good that Indiana was able to get to this point. Even if Indiana doesn't win it all, at this point, Indiana's my pick to win it all. But even if they don't win it all, to still get to this point is absolutely huge for them. So
Yeah. It's such a big milestone.
mhm.
By the way, shout out to Max, who often calls me his prince, which is a little weird. But I do I love you, Max. But I always appreciate when I start yawning. Max gets on here and says Sleepy Zach needs a slumber. I appreciate you, man. I'm so glad that you're on here. And congrats to your Hoosiers, man.
Oh man, and Chris, this is Chris. PSU 2024 says when Penn State first reached out to Campbell, agent first time around, his agent said he was interested. When the agent didn't even tell Matt, Penn State called. I saw that. I didn't know what to make of that. I don't know if that
Mm.
actually. I mean, I was wondering if that was like a Pat Kraft, like save myself type of deal. It's like, guys, I called and he didn't even answer. What do you guys want me to do? Like, and we told him.